If you want to show that, I got it.
Oh, perfect. He's got that postcard too, or the card. If we're gonna do anything for that lady.
Oh, cool. It's his new bookmark. Oh, wait.
Chapter 37. That's tonight. The 37th episode, and we've just signed a contract for a brand new season. Our budget has increased and we're getting stunt doubles to try and cut down on some of the minor injuries we've accumulated over the first 36 episodes. With school back in session, we will tailor our shows to educational subjects so that teachers in all 37 states can take a breather to go outside and vape while the kids watch us detail the Battle of Normandy and how the Salem Witch Trials seemed not to be based on entirely logical thinking. But I did walk through the Blue Ridge Tunnel last weekend with my whole entire family almost, and my niece Lauren asked what I was thinking while walking through the tunnel, and I told her it reminded me of walking through a vast catacomb down to meet some ancient popes still alive at 250 years old. I asked her what she thought of and she said W's. I said what and she said W's. I told her I didn't know what she meant and she said you weren't supposed to say the word in a dark tunnel, but she was referring to witches. Yikes! Dippity Doo! So old popes, and witches, were our thoughts while cavorting through the tunnel. You should do it and see what it makes you think of. It is beautifully cold in the tunnel, so it was very enjoyable. Watch the show tonight and learn the real story behind the invention of the wheel.
Three little frogs sitting on a log, one of them fell in. One frog said to the other frog, well, you better go get him. Two little frogs sitting on a log, one of them fell in. Last little frog, he sat and thought, good thing they can swim. Jabber Jawn, Jabber Jawn, Jabber Jawn, Jabber Jawn. Three little frogs sitting on a log, one burst into a grin. One frog said to the other frog, wonder what's got into him. Two little frogs sitting on a log, one laughed until he is red. Last little frog, he sat and thought, must have been something I said. Jabber Jawn, Jabber Jawn, Jabber Jawn, Jabber Jawn.
All right, looks like it's a go. We are live. We are on the World Wide Web. That means wherever you are in the world, you could be watching us right now. Pretty much anywhere in the world. Hello, world. I'm Nathan Moore. You're watching Jabber Jawn. This is Kyle Hogg. This is Steve Moore. We are at your service. Welcome to the show. It's good to see everybody. We got Lex back behind the controls. He's setting them for the heart of the sun. And we're off and running, and I got nothing.
Well, it's funny, after he said at your service like 2 weeks ago, somebody asked me if I could help him at work, and my response is, I'm at your service.
At your service. that's our new catchphrase.
It's very effective.
Yeah, that's going to be on our T-shirts.
Yeah.
That should be on the T-shirts.
Yeah.
Jabber Jawn at your service.
At your service.
Yeah,
Any update on
I'm
the
still looking for that logo, the Jabber Jawn logo.
Yeah, where are you looking?
Anybody that wants to suggest something, we could have a contest.
The lines are open. Anybody
Yeah.
out there that has any idea for
Yeah.
a Jabber Jawn logo, send it to us.
I think we ought to have a contest with a $100 winner for the best logo, and they give us the rights to it. And
There you go.
we'd make our money, and because it's all about money.
I've got one that should say Jabber Jawn with like a cask laid out and say at your service.
Well, that's
With a what?
Great, I love that.
With a casket and it'll say at your service.
Oh,
I
good
missed
one.
it first. That's good.
Oh, I like that one.
Jabber Jawn. Oh, that's good. Not bad. We at least need to have that as a thumbnail for our next episode or something.
I like it. I like it.
So you went to Art in the Park.
I did went to art.
We need a review. Give us a report. Take us there. We didn't. Did you
I
go?
was.
I went twice.
Oh,
Yeah.
you went twice.
Yes.
Okay, both of you fill me in.
I have nothing to report except I like Sage's work, and I didn't get back to her. But what I saw was Elliot painting a castle,
Oh wow.
which was wonderful. And then the next day, I went down with Daniel and all the girls and
Oh,
Samuel.
cool. Yeah.
And Samuel and I hung out, and the girls were doing all different painting things.
So what was the painting the castle thing?
Well, they had a cardboard castle, and they gave them a paintbrush and a little cup, and they would pick their color, and they'd go over and just,
How big was it so I can picture
oh,
it?
about 4 feet high. Just
So it
made a,
towered over Elliot as he painted.
yeah, he was just going around painting the windows.
Oh
and
my goodness, what a fun thing.
He was having fun, and he didn't paint anybody else.
That's
I
good.
thought that was really good, you know. So we had a good time, but you know, I couldn't get around a whole lot, so I didn't get to see many of the. I'd love to have seen more of the actual art, but I just couldn't get around, and it was so hot.
Right.
The hot.
It has been
It
hot.
was rough. So I
It's been a
basically.
weird hot lately.
But the best thing I saw, I was telling Kyle on the way over, was Sage was one of my students at Stewart Hall, and she's a beautiful lady and artist, and she showed me her latest work. She pulled us back, and her husband was back there with her newborn baby. And he was the cutest little thing, you know. So that was real special.
That's great.
That was my Art in the Park story for this
Very
year.
cool. What's your report?
I bought a bunch. I had just got.
You bought a bunch?
I had just gotten $200 in cash out because I thought I owed somebody some money and I didn't. So I had $200 burning my pocket up. So I think I spent $160. But the best thing I bought was this lady. I felt bad when I was talking to her. She had some postcards, and one was like the most seductive Sam Elliott painting I've ever seen with this big mustache. And I thought it was done as a joke. It was so over the top, like seductive, sexual. But I thought she was like, you know, just making fun of me. So I was just standing there chuckling and laughing. And then I turned to her, and she's dead serious. And I was like, oh crap. You know,
Yeah,
so,
I can-
and
So you bought it?
But I bought it. But then I was with Jane and Grail, and Jane and Grail were like, you got to get this framed and hang it in your shower. So it's always Sam Elliott looking down at you with that big.
Is he shirtless or something?
His shirt's like, he's got like a denim shirt on, like wide open. But I mean, the woman must really like the guy, because you could tell that she was having a good time painting that picture.
Now wait.
She put a lot of herself into it.
I'm guessing it's not a hairy chest. Am I wrong?
It's like sparkling of like grayish hair.
Oh, so it was a hairy chest.
Yeah. But the look at it, the look at his eyes, it's like, you know, like I'm checking you out like full time. So I mean, but I was just standing at the thing laughing my head off, like, oh, honey. I turn around laughing, like getting ready to say, this is hilarious, and she's looking at me like, you know, that's one of my favorite paintings.
And you bought it. That's the punchline.
I love him.
So I don't know. Well, you've been in my bathroom, but at the bathroom, at my downstairs bathroom, I have an old Instamatic camera sitting there, pointing right at the toilet. And so many times when people leave, I go in there and people have turned it to the side, like they think I'm somehow filming them. and so I finally realized this is freaking people out because they think I'm somehow filming. I just thought it was funny to have the camera, like when you sit on the toilet, you look, the camera's like right at you. And I think it was like people were getting worried, like, you know, I'm not coming to the bathroom over here. So I think I'm gonna get that just Sam Elliott framed and just set it in the same spot. So when you look, he's like looking at you.
I kind of wish I hadn't pissed in the sink now.
Sorry, Sam. Mr. Elliott.
Well, there was a lot. There's an old German band, Can, and I had a Can T-shirt on it. A bunch of, you know, wonderfully weird guys were wanting to talk to me about Can, so I had a good time, you know, dealing with that. And I bought a belt made out of an old bicycle tire.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
and I bought a painting of
The tube or the tire?
the tires, like all the the
Tread.
treads and stuff.
Well, I
yeah.
really envy that. I'm really glad you do that. That's what I would like to be doing. I go around and feel self-conscious because I don't spend enough time looking at them, and I don't know enough about art to be, and I don't feel like spending a lot of money, and I'm cheap. And
Right.
But I'd love to just take $200.
Yeah, next
down
time
and
you should
spend
have
it.
a couple $100 burning a hole in your pocket. I'm going to spend this down here no matter what.
I'm gonna do that.
And if I can't walk around too much, I'll just buy it off from that first booth. Whatever it is.
Or if I see somebody I know, like a young person, I might give them the money and tell them to go buy something. That way, it'd make two people happy.
Right.
Right. That's great.
And I went down there with Jane and Grail, and Jane's band had just played the night before, so everybody was telling her, so I'm usually not that talkative, but I was like just jabbering my mouth off like a nutcase down there, so I had a really good time. And they took me home and went up and saw your dad, so that was a good
Yeah, I
day.
had a nice visit with them.
Why do you think you were talkative?
Because we were walking down there, and I was telling them how I never talk to anybody. If I buy anything, I'm just like looking down, and like, here's the money, and they're like, no. And then Jane Jane and Grail, like talkative people, so I guess I just got caught up in the excitement of it. And then people kept talking to me about my T-shirt, and it was like, you can't just be like a moron, because you have to at least act like you know what the band shirt is you're wearing. You can't look like one of those, goofballs. Like, I don't even know what they sound like,
Well, yeah, that's one thing. Next year he has to be wearing a Jabber Jawn T-shirt.
That's
Right.
That's
We
right.
need to work on that.
Yeah. What T-shirt were you wearing?
It was this old German band called Can.
Oh, I gotcha.
And a couple of people, like one guy had like really cool. He had taken album covers and then like silk screened over top of them. Really cool stuff. But he also had the album in there. So when you bought it, you got like the album plus then you could play it if you got it home. So I bought one of those from him, and then he was running his mouth about his art and Can and stuff. It just ended up being a really good day. But then, Jane and Grail they know much more people than I do, so they just stopped and talked, and I wandered around, and we thought we lost you. Like you're a child, stay with us, But it was a good time. But it was hot as a devil, man. You'd go in the sun, and you'd have to just go stand in the shade for
Yeah,
10
it was
minutes
rough.
to cool down.
It's pretty permeating heat too, even in the shade. It's a little thick.
It was, oh my God.
Humidity. No, I'm proud of you both. We were doing something else, but we drove past it, and I wanted to stop. I was like, oh, it's looking awesome over there.
Oh, it was. It's just a beautiful thing. There's so many good people in town, and it's just well supported. And I've made it to the park twice this week, and I just love that park. Has such a good energy about it.
It really does.
And I walked the next morning. It was just amazing. All that energy was there on Sunday and Monday morning. You walk through there, wasn't a bit of trash. It was just clean.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
The city of Stanton does a lot of good things.
A lot of good things.
Yeah, they're.
And your neighbor, Steve the painter, was the DJ. He played music the whole time.
Mm-hmm. He loves doing that.
Yeah.
I read his post on Facebook after he did it.
I was laughing.
Glowing.
I was laughing. I thought it was the first time I've ever seen him in the daylight. I just see him out at clubs and stuff, or bars. I was like, he came up to me. I didn't really recognize him at first. Like, man, this is the first time I've ever seen you in the daylight.
Who is this?
Steve. He lives like 2 or 3 houses up from you.
Yeah, I don't know him.
So how do we feel about talking bad about local businesses?
Man, let's
Do you have
let's do it. They pissed me off. I got a list.
Well, yeah, that's the first thing. I don't think you really should do it unless it's somebody that's messed with me
Right.
or you
Whisper-
or you.
whi-
If they're messing with us, they deserve what they get, don't they?
Well, I just have to give a big old. As long as I have y'all's permission to dip my toe into
Can
the
you
deep
whisper who it
end.
is?
All right,
first before we-
go
in case,
for it.
In case we disagree with you.
What's that?
I'm smelling something. What is that? There's nothing cooking right. Everything's
I smell vanilla.
What is his name?
He thinks something's burning.
Pipe.
Oh, pipe.
Oh yeah.
Pipe.
He's finally stopped coughing over there and he can smell stuff. All right, so rip into him.
Yeah?
You want us to get out of like punch range?
Permission to commit?
Go for it.
By the way, a great Bill Palmerism. He's a studio engineer in New Mexico that I worked with, and a line he's from Texas, so everything out of his mouth is a euphemism. I guess, is that the right word? Catchy little saying or good little blurb of wisdom, sort of Socratic little phrases. He always said, "The chicken contributes, the pig commits." Does that mean anything to you?
Say it again.
The chicken contributes, the pig commits. So I'd be like,
Oh my God.
you know, like you'd be behind the microphone and wondering whether you should try something or do something. And you know, the idea is, you know, a chicken just gives an egg to the breakfast,
Right.
whereas the pig is all in.
Right. Gotcha. I got that.
So he's saying, don't contribute to the track, commit to the track. And so I guess I'm going in. Jabberjawn,
Hey, you're making me
side eye.
nervous.
What's that?
You're making me nervous.
It's not a big deal. Recyclops. Have you heard of these people? When the city of Stanton stopped collecting our recycling, which was a sad thing, they recommended this private business that you could pay a fee and they'll come get your
I've heard about
recycling.
that,
So
yeah.
it's sad that the city stopped doing it, but we wanted to keep recycling, so we signed up for this service called Recyclops. And as you saw, our recycling's still sitting out there. It's supposed to go Tuesday night. Y'all had to walk around it when you came in because yet again, they didn't come and get it. And I've been seeing some stuff on Newtown and in the Stanton Facebook group, all kinds of weird complaints about this company. One person, apparently, now that I've done some research, it seems like it's almost like a DoorDash kind of deal. They don't have real employees. They have like people that, you know, like DoorDash is a company where anybody can be a DoorDash driver.
Right.
So like if you wanted to be a DoorDash driver, you sign up on the website, and then when someone orders from Wendy's or something from DoorDash, it might be you.
Right.
You'll get a little notification, and so you're not really an employee, but
Right.
you bring me my food. Well, this lady in Harrisonburg was using Recyclops. All of a sudden, she gets a call from a storage facility company that have those storage units, and they're like, "Did you just dump a bunch of trash in one of these storage units?" Somebody that worked for Recyclops picked it up, her cardboard and stuff, and some of it had her address on it
Oh
and
my
her name.
gosh.
And instead of taking it to their facility, they just wanted to get rid of it. They wanted to get off work, so they just threw it all into a storage unit.
Dang.
And the storage unit people ended up calling this lady. She's like, "I have no idea what you're talking about," but it was her recycling that had been dumped there. And the thing that led me down that rabbit hole was somebody was on Facebook saying that a bunch of recycling, they had a dumpster out in front of their house for construction. You know, that some people will rent a dumpster and have it in front of their house when they're doing work. And somebody just took some Recyclops driver picked up everybody's recycling and just threw it in that dumpster. So like people's recycling is just showing up in random places, and our recycling is still sitting out there. It's like the third time they just haven't picked it up at all. And so thank you for letting me get that off my chest. And
It's weird. I don't know anything about them. I've never heard anything. But a friend of mine, I go over to her house like once a week. I pick her up and we go somewhere. And there's always like a bottles or you know, cardboard or whatever in the yard. I'm always like, where's this stuff come from? She goes, the people that pick this stuff up, I pay them to pick it up. They just, if stuff falls out, they just leave it there. Like if they're picking up if she has it in a bag or whatever, if something falls out, they don't bend over and pick it up. They just, and I'm like, every time I come over, there's like a couple of bottles and some cardboard laying around.
it's them. I really feel like this is like I would bring this up if I was arguing with a libertarian that thinks the free market will just solve all
Right.
solutions if you leave it alone. This is a service provided by the local government, paid for by our tax dollars and stuff. That was good. They stopped doing it. A private firm moved in. Oh, we'll do it. And now we're stuck with Recyclops, and it's really hard for me to imagine that there's going to be like another better business that's going to. I feel like we're just sort of stuck with this Recyclops thing. Well, so in other news, we've canceled our Recyclops subscription, although we're locked in for a year or whatever. So as soon as it's over, we will be going to the new facilities that they don't pick it up anymore, but Stanton did create a new place where we can take our recycling. So we'll just do that.
Yeah, I go down there and drop it off.
I'm stepping down from my soapbox now. Sorry
But
for being negative.
But, I mean, I don't. Is it that you were saying it's in Harrisonburg? So it's not a local company, right? It's like a nationwide.
I feel like it's a nationwide, or I don't know if it's East Coast or if they're branching out, but each city has like a version of it, sort of like DoorDash or something.
It's a cool name, at least.
Right? Yeah, you think it'd be cool.
Well, you know, if you could get it where you had a dependable local company, everything would have worked out. And people that are recycling in the way that you're talking about are not afraid to pay a little bit of money to do it. It could be a decent business, but that's what's happening so many times at a certain level of business. The big deals, ones that can do it all over the country are making the money because they have a vehicle that allows it to do it. It's just an easier. Well, you know, Walmart works better than a mom and pop store. It just doesn't take as much money to run it. And that's what these people are doing. They're cutting all the corners, but they don't have any competition.
Right. No competition.
That's the issue.
that's what the libertarian would say is like the what I'm suffering from is the lack of competition. And,
Yeah. Well, I think that's true too.
Right. I'm not exactly sure there's enough demand for this to create that competition.
Well, yeah. What's the libertarian say then?
And there's a whole nother argument. You know, there's a lot of us are what I'm cognizant. I'm aware that recycling, to a certain extent, is probably a false solution because it actually makes you feel better about doing the wrong thing. What we need is to not be producing this waste in the first place, and we need to have a milk jug that we get filled with milk. We need Refill is a great local business where you bring your bottle down for detergent or soap or whatever, and they refill your bottle. And we should all be using our cloth bags to go to the grocery store, and all these different ways that we can be cutting down on this waste. Whereas recycling is sort of one of those liberal solutions that makes you feel better about yourself, but makes the problem worse.
Right. Well, it's funny because like when I lived in New Jersey, right after I left, they got rid of plastic bags. Nobody know if you just show up, you just don't have a plastic.
Wait, where is this?
In New Jersey. Like there's like they'll sell you a bag, but they're not gonna give you a plastic bag. You gotta just carry all your shit out in your hands. So like when I have friends in New Jersey, I'll buy them birthday presents and stuff. The only thing most they write back in is like, "Oh man, you filled the bag in with like 10 plastic bags. We can put that in the little trash can in the bathroom now." They're so dying to get little plastic bags now. They're like thank you for the birthday present, but the most important thing is now I can throw my tissues in the plastic bag.
Tell them to come to my house. I can take care of them.
They can be handy, I gotta admit. Cleaning out litter boxes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the and like you said, like the bags, the cloth bags, is a wonderful idea. And once you get used to it, it's very. Like I've finally gotten used to it. It used to be a pain in my butt, but now I just have them in the back seat and I just take them. It's just you do, and it does give you like a. It's probably not doing that much, but it does give you a little. It gives you a sense of. It gives you a little sense of you're helping out a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I went to the grocery store last week and I came out and had a bag full and I lined the cart up. It was my Art House bag. So I got her like, look, I got all my groceries in my art bag. She was like, yeah, way to go.
Yeah, that'll be part of our merchandise. Some Jabberjawn grocery bags.
Oh yeah.
Definitely. Big seller.
Yeah, I want them big with a shoulder strap, not some dinky little. How you gonna fit all your food in that kind of thing?
Yeah, the art hive has that nice flat bottom. Man.
Oh,
That's-
nice flat bottom.
yeah.
Catherine was telling me that apparently the United States consumes like over 90% of all the world's plastic bags,
Wow.
Wow.
which is
That's absurd.
crazy. That's a crazy stat. Am I getting that right?
You know where's one of the worst places I've seen for the way they don't recycle? Hospitals. They'll change gloves 8 times while they're in the room with you.
Because they don't want to spread bacteria and stuff.
And it's all based on hygiene, but to me, I just saw a tremendous number. If there was any way you could just take those and throw them and heat them up and, degerm them and recycle them, that would be great. But gosh, they just go through so much stuff because every time they give, everything they do, they throw right in the trash. Unbelievable amount of stuff at the hospitals.
Yeah, I remember last time I visited somebody in the hospital, I came home with a whole bunch of stuff that they were getting ready to throw out. I was like, I could use that camping. A little pee jug, a little wash basin.
You don't want these pills? I'll take them.
Hey, just throwing that out.
You're not gonna eat that Jello? I'll take it home. Come on.
I don't know how many times in my life I've been the guy by the trash receptacle going, oh, you throwing that out? I'll take it. Comes from my dumpster diving days when I lived in Austin. Dumpster diving was a whole thing. It was a whole, probably in Richmond. You probably have been in a dumpster or two in your day, right? It's a punk ethos.
The University of Richmond is like a lot of rich northern people that come down. And when school's over, they don't need their beds and all that clothes. They just leave everything. So every year, University of Richmond has like a day where they just sell all this stuff. Man, we'd go out there and you could buy like stuff. Because, these kids, they're moving back up north. They're not going to haul microwaves and sofas and stuff with them. You'd see people out there like redoing their whole homes, like just buying stuff. They get like a sofa for $25, a microwave for $10, Because the school doesn't want to have to haul it and get rid of it. But man, that was a beautiful day going out there. Just stuff, a parking lot full of stuff, CDs.
We still have that around Stanton when they have the big trash once a year.
Pickup, yeah.
And I tell you what, anything we stick out there for big trash, like half of the stuff is gone in 5 minutes because people are just riding around town, whether you're a flea market business or whatever it is you do. They're just riding around, just scooping that stuff up. Yeah. Any copper piping, anything you got out there. It is amazing how fast it goes. It's incredible. I remember when I first moved to Austin, Texas, and it was like first time I lived in a big city, and I was really young, and people started talking about dumpster diving. Like, oh, this is dumpster score. I'm like, what is this? So I started just looking in them. And I looked in one, the first dumpster I actually, and it's called dumpster diving because a lot of these you can't reach in. You got to get in that thing.
Oh, yeah.
These big ones that are around apartment complexes and stuff. But I saw some books down there. So I dove into the dumpster and I'm down there. And this is when I knew that there was magic involved in this whole counterculture phenomenon. It was the first time I'd ever heard of this poet. His name was Lawrence Ferlinghetti. You ever heard of this guy?
Sure.
Yeah.
City Light Books.
Yeah, City Light Books. This whole world was introduced to me by my first dumpster dive. I was like, what's this? Coney Island State of Mind or something. Lawrence Ferlinghetti. And I swear on a stack of Bibles, I opened that book of poetry, and the first poem I turned to was called Junk Man's Obligato. I was like, holy moly. I'm living in dumpsters from now on. This is a magic world here. It was just so.
That's a great story.
Junk Man's Obligato.
I love it.
I just couldn't believe it.
That is amazing. Magic.
And then I basically ended up furnishing that first apartment with stuff, stuff I found in subsequent dumpsters. And then there's a whole, like, if you're really sort of, you know, if you don't have any money, and you're in the dumpster diving counterculture or whatever, there's a whole like map they have and a time schedule of food. Like the food line on Fish Street around 5 o'clock, they throw out all their old rolls or something. Like you could have people that would tell you which dumpster at what time to get the best stuff. Like,
But when I first moved to Richmond, I worked at McDonald's, and the night manager was this really cool guy, and he's like, there's a lot of the managers would like just throw trash and food away in the same bag. And this guy would tell us, look, there's a lot of hungry people in there. Put all the food that's edible in a separate bag and throw it in the dumpster. You know, put it as close as you can
to the top.
Yeah, so
That's
people
so
can come
great.
get
I
it.
love
yeah.
that.
That's a good thing.
Yeah,
It's such a beautiful
he was
thing.
like, we have to throw it away. That's the thing. But don't put it in with a bunch of old dirty rags and stuff like that.
Oh, that's so beautiful. 'Cause
That's a good thought.
there's so many times where the rules are so frustrating because they have to throw it away, but they're not allowed to give it to hungry people.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's good rules for good reason,
Well, and
but
that's
good people
just like
break those rules.
It's just like about when I was talking about the hospital. It's
Mm-hmm.
I don't want them not to be aware of hygiene. You know that they're doing the right thing.
Right.
Just the results they are a little bit overwhelming. But if you could
There
come
could
up
be a
with a
little
way,
side deal going
yeah,
on.
you could do a little bit of. Just like those baseballs at Major League games, one of those pet peeves you have. The way they waste baseballs. And if it hits the ground, they throw it away.
Oh, right.
And that just bothers me. It bothers all us old guys.
Yeah,
I think.
there's kids
I mean,
out
you,
there
you
that would...
pick it up and look at it. If it's all right, you throw it back in.
Right.
It's everything else is wasteful.
Or you toss it to a kid in the stands
Yeah.
or something.
But,
Why do they do that? Because it actually affects the integrity of how it moves through the air.
theoretically, it gets a scuff mark. They can use it to make it spin more, do what they want to do. The truth is, it's overdone.
Right, right.
I mean, there are people cheating and doing it. That's one thing, but to actually use a scuff mark in the middle of a game, it hits the ground and you go back. And, that takes a lot of premeditation to the next pitch you're going to use that. And I don't think many pitchers are that good, but that's my opinion.
It's weird how all this comes in. I don't even know if we talked about my conversation at the corner store. Was that on the air or off the air?
What's that?
About the guy working at the pretzel shop. Was that on air or off
I think
air?
that was off air.
That was off air?
Well, I'm not sure.
I can't
remember.
I can't remember either. But anyway, the guy said that we were talking about pretzels, and this dude worked at this pretzel place. But
What's a pretzel place?
At Annie Ann's at the Harrisonburg Mall.
Mm.
So he was making $17.50 in 1996. If you didn't hear this, we talked about it before the show. Anyway, so he said the guy that owned the place would not waste dough. So if there was any dough left, they made pretzels and they took them to the old folks' home. Every single night. If you were the closing manager, you had to take it. He said sometimes there'd be like 120. One night there'd be like 10, but you had to use all the dough left and take it. I was like, man, that's what people need to do, stuff like that.
Yeah.
I'm sure that closing manager didn't like it, having to haul it all over there. Like, he just wanted to dump it in the trash and move on.
Right, but that's...
Yeah. I mean, taking care of others, it's like such an, such a cool thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. I've been thinking about your Meals on Wheels daydreams that you talk about from time to time.
Yeah, everything's kind of taken a back burner this week for different things going on, but I like I'm still a big fan of the
This has
idea.
been an observation and an idea you've thought about for some time, though, that Dad used to deliver Meals on Wheels, and you want to share the basic premise of your observation?
Well, I do have some experience with Meals on Wheels, and I am a big fan of what all the people involved there are trying to do. So,
What's that?
I think maybe hands are causing the interference.
Ah,
It was cut out that whole time. His hands were right there.
gotcha.
All right, is that better?
Yeah,
Sorry.
taking notes over here.
Yeah. Well, where was I?
Meals on Wheels.
You know, and I did it. I was telling somebody the other day that the route I had for my Meals on Wheels, I found out after I'd done it for 2 years. I visited Mom afterwards one day, and she said, "Yes, your father had that route for 15 years."
Oh, no kidding.
wow.
So I didn't even
Wow.
know they'd given me the same route.
Oh,
So who does Meals on Wheels? Do you know?
Well, it's there's two different groups. One works more of a private group, and I think they're sponsored a lot by the Olivet Presbyterian Church. And they do their meals through Armstrong's, and you pay for those. And then the Meals on Wheels program that I got signed up with is a city-based program. They used to be over at Old Lee and down there and cook down there, but they've had to move to Waynesboro. And
So they have their own kitchen.
well, not anymore. They used to make their own meals. Now I think that they use institutional food from the hospital, and I don't want to be too critical, but it's just not the quality that it used to have.
So,
So what I used to do, when you deliver Meals on Wheels, you're delivering two things, and one is food and sustenance, but the other is the social aspect and approaching. So what it's really all about for me and a lot of people that do it as volunteers is I could easily be, when I knocked on this door, I knew I was the only human being that person was going to see, to talk to all day.
right.
And I was ready for that. You know, I was just gonna. I don't talk a whole lot, but I could. If they had to get something off, they had to vent something, I'd listen and smile, and you know, they look forward to me coming. Well, that's called human interaction, and it keeps people alive.
right.
And if you take that away, there's not much left. And that's the area that I would like to work on. I was talking about when I do my Meals on Wheels, we're gonna cook food like in a cafeteria style and serve it. This is all theoretical. But then we'll have people delivering the meals. But here's the other thing. When I worked with Mom and had all those wonderful ladies taking care of my mom, what I saw was the caretakers are amazing people. I mean, what they do is just extraordinary. But you know what? They get lonely too.
Right.
They're stuck in one place all day sometimes with someone who, you know, can't do a whole lot, or it's not, well, you know, they're just with one person. And it's great to have somebody else come in to talk to.
Right.
And then they would come in and either fix the meal or bring the meal. We want to train you to make the meal. So I have your little kit, and I'll come in, and I'm going to stay there an hour and a half and talk to you and fix the meal, and you and the caretaker and the person there are going to be, I'm going to serve both of you, and then I'm going to leave after an hour or two. And now to do that with volunteers, and you know, I just know so many people my age that would either want to help me do that service or know someone who needs that service.
Right.
It's right there.
So
And
it's leaning in and maximizing the connection part of that whole exchange.
it's getting it together and I know the people that can do it. I can tell you who can do what. I've had the caretakers. I'm even working on the cooks. With, so if you're a chef in the area, watch out. But you know, it's just a way of giving back too. It's another way of giving back. You know, most of the people I know are doing something to give back. That's just what good people do. And so this will just be another opportunity.
And it's so true. You know, I mean, I bet half those people, if they said you could either have the food or the conversation, they would just say, you don't even need to bring the food. I'll go hungry if I can just have somebody to talk to.
Exactly. So we're going to take them sardines and Vienna sausage. And,
That's
I didn't bring anything today, but I'm here.
well, there are going to be exceptions to all the rules.
You know, a couple of thoughts I had too, just elaborating on it in my own daydreams is, Might be fun to have like a really well-mannered dog as part of the operation.
Yeah, and I know the people doing that too.
Because that connection.
Yeah, that's a
could-
great idea.
and that was and the second tier is musicians.
Yeah, I definitely see that too.
And even I feel like it could be even more fun as opposed to like one person singing songs to them, which can be awkward, but a few musicians making music in the house or whatever. So it's not this weird. 'Cause I feel I actually it was the first time I said that out loud, but like it's such a different energy. Like if I went with my guitar and I'm just like singing them a song, and it's this whole like. I don't know, there's an awkwardness to that exchange. But if Lex and I were there with Rennie or something, we just started playing some tunes, then it's just like a little bit, there's something to get enveloped in and a little bit of, I don't know, it's an
Because
atmosphere.
it's not such a one-on-one experience. You can you don't have to just stare at the person. Like
They can pet the dog, there's
Yeah.
picking going on. That's
because a lot of times there's one person you feel like if you're not looking at them, they think you're not paying attention. If you have two, you can like turn your head. You're still paying attention, but you don't have to like focus, right.
Right.
on it, A friend of mine, her stepdad lives in like a low-income, lot of like sort of street people. They put them in these places to live, and they just had a prom. Like 2 or 3 weeks ago, and she said her stepdad was so excited. He's lived on the street for a lot of years and stuff. She said, just these memories, to think you're sitting there, you've been smoking crack for 10 years, you're getting yourself back together, you're like, man, I'm going to prom again. He actually went out and bought a corsage, and he went with some lady that he barely knows. Some woman knocked on the door, hey, you want to go to prom with me? And he gave her the corsage. But stuff like that is what makes life so worth. And she said he was just so, he didn't really have that much to be happy about. He's living in this, motel type thing. And she said he was texting her and so happy, just things like that, just spark in your life makes such a difference. But she was just laughing I can't believe he went and bought a corsage, But I mean, people, and that it gives you something, out of your daily routine to look forward to.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of people in this country that are so thankful that tonight is here. NFL.
Oh, I thought we were keeping people company out there. But yeah, there you go.
Kansas City and Detroit. Talk about creating
Tonight's the night.
It's
right?
a fantasy world begins tonight.
Wow.
You
Well,
should
that's
talk.
fun.
You should talk a little bit about your experiment you did this week
Which one?
when you got off Facebook. for a
Oh,
week.
yeah.
I just want to
well,
say, just before we move on from that, this I am looking forward to this Sunday. Go Commanders!
All right. Are you-
Not a fan of that name, but
No.
I am excited for their new era in there.
yeah.
They got a toxic owner that was famously toxic for many years, and I'm excited to turn the page, cheer for them again.
Yeah, I was speaking with Kenny's a big diehard Redskin fan. I'll still call them Redskins, but they haven't been a team you could root for recently, just because of the one person there that got in the way of all. Now you can root for them, even if they're no good. You can root for them again. And that's,
What? I don't really know enough about it. Why was he so despised? I believe it from everything I've heard.
just his general business character.
He was
was, Yeah, that's really hard, because I think he tried at first not to be that person, and it just didn't work.
He just was that person.
He was that person, and it just came out after over a period of time.
Right.
But there were certain sexual misconduct, behaviors, just attitudes more than.
toxic.
I'm not saying just created a toxic world, but
Right.
you just never heard much good about him. And I don't know. I don't know enough about it to be authoritative.
Gotcha. All right. Back where we were, you're talking about a Facebook experiment? Is that
Oh,
what we were
I woke up Monday morning. I've been in a different place, very different place all week, having to do with several different things I think that are happening in my body and my life. But I woke up Monday morning and just decided I didn't want to see Facebook that morning. And then, so I've been off Facebook completely since Monday morning. Now, and I was telling, you know, it's one thing not to be posting on Facebook. I do that a lot. I can go weeks without posting, although I tend to post every so often. But what I like, or what I felt like I needed, was to check on everybody else. So I don't know, you know, anything that's going on, a lot of the social things in terms of, well, you know, I'm not going anywhere anyway. You know, and everything seems to be taking a back seat right now to just me relaxing and taking care of myself and, you know, doing what I can do and doing that well and just not trying to do a whole lot of other things, but I'm not going anywhere. And the thing I thought I'd miss the most, and I am, is checking in on people. You know, I check in on family through texting, but to check on friends, there's a whole lot of people I wouldn't know if they were alive or dead if it wasn't for Facebook.
Right.
And so I need to know how they are, and so I will go back. So, but it is interesting. Because I was telling him, there's some things you realize whenever you do something like this, whether it be diet or whatever, you realize you lose some things, but you also gain some things.
Right.
And one of the things I've gained is it's relaxed me more. I'm not as tense. You know, if I'll watch the news enough to know who died or anything, but you know, like a good example was Jimmy Buffett.
Oh, right.
Everybody in the world had something to say, and I loved that because I loved Jimmy Buffett, and I felt the same way they did. And it was nice for me, and I'm sure for Jimmy, in his spiritual way of appreciating the world, is saying it's really nice that many people were affected by little old me doing my little island gig here, and so he was happy with that. But it just amazed me how many people he touched. But it was also an overkill for me. And, you know, I wanted to think about him a little bit privately, but I was just going down, and it was either Jimmy Buffett or a dog or a cat, and I just got overwhelmed.
Rest in peace, Jimmy Buffett. Just sidebar.
Well, that whole thing, I love what Jimmy Buffett stands for and will always stand for.
He was right up there at the top of, I don't know if you would call him one of your favorites, but I know that he was.
Well,
because I know the music you played as I was growing up, and there was a lot of Jimmy Buffett in there.
Yeah, and you know, I always thought he was a great lyricist, and he's getting
underestimated.
I always thought he was very underestimated as a lyricist. Some of his favorite lines, or my favorite lines, come from, you know, some of it's magic, some of it's tragic, but we had a good time all the way. That's a great philosophy, because it's just the truth.
He was one of those guys that, I mean, I know a lot of people that didn't really, that weren't a fan of his music, but nobody disliked him.
Yeah.
And like, you might not listen to his music, but you never heard anybody say anything bad about him. He's like, he's doing his thing, I'm not into it, but, you know, God bless him, he's having a good time, and his fans are having a good time.
I think there was a while there where some people would, not to say a mean thing about him, but rolled their eyes at people that liked him. I feel like I've gotten that eye roll before because of being a Jimmy Buffett fan, because all they think of is Wasted Away in Margaritaville, or you know, like.
Well, and parrot heads tend to be, you know, stereotyped the same way.
Right.
You're just there for the alcohol and the margarita and a party, and you're not even dancing.
Lowbrow.
You're not even dancing that good.
But the funny thing, me and a friend were talking about it, and we were like, it's just so weird. Like, just thinking about, like, looking at, like, the photos of, like Warhol photos or whatever. It'd be like a party in Cape Cod or the Hamptons or something. It'd be like Jimmy Buffett, Lou Reed, and Diana Ross sitting together. And it's like, what in the world? It's like, we were like, I guess after you get that famous, you just really don't have that many people to hang out with. But you don't really think, you know, what are Lou Reed, Jimmy Buffett, Diana Ross talking about sitting at a table?
That's an interesting combination.
It's just like, those people are just like, you know, like a
You know,
different
one thing they
breed.
all three have in common? Money.
Yeah, that's the thing. You just reach this level. You can't really hang out with normal people anymore. There's like, you go to a party, you don't want to hang out with a bunch of guys like the truck drivers shucking oysters. I
Jimmy
love
was-
your songs. You want to hang out with somebody.
Apparently, he and Paul McCartney were really good friends.
Oh, really?
That was one of my
McCartney
favorite
posting.
of all the eulogy. Is that the word?
Yeah, that's a good
That
word.
you write for a friend. Of all the eulogies I read on Facebook, I think Paul McCartney's was one of my favorites. He really, you could tell they were close, and had a lot of sweet things to say. But then it sent me down this rabbit hole because I'm reading Paul McCartney's eulogy, remembering his friend, and he says, "I was very fortunate to play on one of the songs on his last batch of recordings, and the song that Paul played on was called." My gummy just kicked in. And I was like, what song is this? My gummy just kicked in. I was like, I got to hear that right now. So I went on to Google and started trying to find this song, and I don't think it's out yet. I don't think it's been released. But I did learn. I found Jimmy Buffett on YouTube at a
McCartney
radio
just making
station.
it up.
So the one thing I found was Jimmy Buffett on live footage on YouTube of him at this radio station debuting this new song. My gummy just kicked in.
Oh, wow.
And he goes on to tell the story
Now,
of the song.
excuse me, how old was he? Is
This is like
recently?
this year.
Yeah.
Like this is very recent.
Gotcha.
I spoiler alert, still never heard this song because
didn't
he
hear
tells
it?
the whole story and then the dang thing ends right when they hit play on it.
Oh, wow.
So I still haven't, I can't wait to hear this song. Paul McCartney's playing on, but apparently the story he tells is that he was having a dinner party and Paul and his wife were there. And Paul was sitting at one end of the table, and Jimmy was sitting near his wife at the other, Paul's wife, near the other end of the table. And they're both getting to the table at the same time. And she has a little pratfall moment where she stumbles and almost spills her stuff. And he's like, "Oh, you okay, dear?" And she's like, "I'm fine. My gummy just kicked in." And and the light bulb went on. He said right at that moment, he's like, "Can I have that? Can I have that line?" And Paul's starting to get suspicious. He's down there like, "What's going on down?" Jimmy's like, "Nothing you need to worry about, Paul. This is mine. I'm stealing this." So he immediately starts working on the song in his head, and next time he sees Paul, he's like, "I got that song written. I really think I got something here." And Paul was in town at the time in L.A., and Jimmy was like, "You want to come over and lay some?" He's like, "You just let me know when it's done. I can't wait to check it out." So Paul didn't want to just go there and play bass on it, but then he heard the song, and it was super catchy. And next time he came over, he walked into the party singing this song, and Jimmy was like, "Oh, Paul was singing that song when he walked in," and then Paul was like, "All right, let me at it," and laid bass down on it. So
Cool. That's funny.
yeah, I gotta hear this song. My
Yeah.
gummy just kicked in.
Oh, my goodness.
Sorry, I might have taken us far away from where we were. I'm not
Time
even-
for the bird.
I'm through.
Bird. Bird is a word. You should start singing it every time it's bird time.
Is it bird time?
we had a good moment Friday at Art Hive when he told me something he did at 5 o'clock, and I was like, "I did something at 5 o'clock too," and we're just standing there busting out laughing in this crowd of people looking at us like we have no idea what you're laughing about.
Wait, what is that reference? 5 o'clock.
I don't know what he's talking about.
What's the 5 o'clock?
Dude, some people you just can't trust to tell a story without them implicating you in something.
It was a very fun moment, though. I'd look back on that fondly.
Well, I don't want to think people you have to do an edible before you go to our hive. It's not true.
Did you finish the thoughts you had though about your any idea about the Facebook break you're taking, or was there?
I'm going to get back on tomorrow and see what I've missed. For instance, I've missed some birthdays, and I hate
You're so
to
good about the birthdays.
I hate to do that.
You're so good about the birthdays.
Well, if I'd never heard of you, I don't wish you one. But that's only about half of the people I no one.
I really appreciate I mean, it seems like you say happy birthday to everybody that it's their birthday. And I really appreciate that because I don't say happy birthday to anybody because I'm afraid, and I feel like this is a bad pattern in my life where I'm afraid of doing something because I don't want to then be expected to do it again. So I avoid, like, especially like, you know, doing things really well. Like, I'm afraid of doing something really well because then I'm afraid of the expectation that I could do it that well again or that I would. I'm afraid if I start saying happy birthday to one person, people are going to be like, why didn't he say happy birthday to me? And like, oh, it's cool. He doesn't say happy birthday to anybody. I feel like you know what I mean? Like
I hear you.
but you just seem to like take the
well,
other
you
approach.
either
which
go
I think
one
is,
way or the other, but I don't say,
oh, you
oh no, I'm selective.
right.
If you don't ever like my stuff, I don't like your stuff.
Well, the thing is, you two are both, from being a teacher, probably every student that ever had you, if you come up on their Facebook, they probably want to be your friend. You probably have friends you probably don't even know who the heck they are. They, you know, they loved you when you performed, and you're like, oh yeah, you know, I'll accept you. I mean, y'all probably live in worlds on Facebook. There's like just people, you know, and it's sort of weird because being friends with both of y'all, I'm getting like, and I'll just see, you know, like friends with like Swaby, you know, it'll be like, you know. And I hear y'all talk about him, and then like he posted a song this morning. I was like, oh man, that's a great song. Like you do sort of meet people. I don't feel like
Sure.
I don't feel like I know him, but it's like, you know, y'all probably know people that you really don't even really know.
Oh, yeah,
There's no doubt about it.
there's no doubt about it. There's a couple women out on the West Coast I love dearly. Sincerely, I really do. But I've never met them,
Right,
but we've been together from Frogville on down.
right, right.
Yeah, Swimmy posted something with Dan Bear. I can't remember what the guy's name was. Some song this was the first thing this morning I woke up, looked at my phone, listened to that song. I was like, oh man, this is awesome. Like he probably posted it like, you know, early in the morning. I was like the first person to respond. He's probably like, why is this weirdo responding to me out of the blue for no reason?
Well,
Singing?
No, it wasn't him. It was somebody. It was like just a song he had put on there.
I definitely am guilty for both of you guys having friends you didn't ask for on Facebook because I recommend you two are two of the main reasons I stay on Facebook because your posts are so good. And I used to be a lot more active on Facebook trying to make engaging or interesting posts all the time, and I haven't done that in a long time. But you guys are still heroes as far as I'm concerned, as far as trying to use that platform to put something surprising and fun and inspiring into the world.
Yeah, sometimes I'm thinking like the thought for the day, just to
Right.
make you think, or maybe it's just funny, or just something to get the day going. Or I think you're too happy and I want to depress you.
What
Balance.
what does the world need this morning? More depression.
yeah.
Let me get something.
Let me
on
do
here.
a quick skim. Oh, okay. Gotta throw a wrench one way or the other. They're overly negative today. I better say something hopeful.
Which way should this switch go? Let me see.
I went down one more thing before the bird. Another rabbit hole I went down the other night, which I'm glad I did, even if it doesn't come to fruition. But I was thinking that we could start a Jawn book, a press, sort of harkening back to your bold print roots and stuff like that. But the rabbit hole I went down was book binding.
Oh, man.
All of a sudden, I was like, I got all this stuff in my Amazon cart right now that's about like DIY book binding.
Oh, wow.
That we can make our own books. We could be city lights. We could be a new high end. And
you're giving shivers down my spine.
my first dream was, I was like, well, what books would we do? And I was like, you know what would be a fun book that could be our first Jawn Press release is we'll take people's Facebook walls and turn it into an actual book. And you two would be the first two releases. We could call it, Book Face or something. Book Face, the Steve Moore edition, the Kyle Hogg edition. So I, as editor, we just go down and take your whole wall and then edit out some gems, enough to fill a small book.
I'll
And
just edit out 95% of the shit. Then we'll have,
and make an actual physical book
oh my god!
out of your Facebook
You gotta stop
walls.
talking. You're gonna have me up all night now.
Well, yeah, I mean, the sky's the limit, too, once we start actually book binding what our next book would be. But I feel like your wall would be perfect for this. Your wall would be perfect for this. Maybe my wall a few years ago would be a possibility. But regardless, you guys would be two great first editions. And then once this would be like a $50 book or something. We're not mass producing these. These are handmade. The love is in them. There'll be smudge prints and sweat prints. Your face on the book face or whatever, the Kyle Hogg edition.
Man, I'm ready to go. Let's go. Woo, 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 woo.
But then, like, after we make your twos and we sell them out there into the world, I could see it being, something where, like, there are people out there that either are this person or know this person. Like, my uncle's Facebook wall would be great for this. That would pay us to create a physical book out of someone they know's Facebook wall as a surprise Christmas gift or something. I feel like it's a whole cottage industry that could come from that book face. I wish book face came off my tongue a little bit better, because it's perfect intellectually. Facebook, it's a book, and then have your face and your face, just be like Kyle's face, the Kyle Hogg edition.
So Lex, what did you tell me Facebook's called now?
Meta.
Yeah, so it'd be.
This would be meta, because we would make a book with your face on it of your Facebook wall, an actual book.
Gosh.
It'd be like.
I won't be asleep until Monday now.
but book binding too, just to come full circle on that. I watched, I spent like 3 hours watching YouTube videos on how to bind books, and it's doesn't look too hard. It doesn't look too hard. It's within reach, and really appreciate that's how, to a certain extent, that's how they used to do it. You punch the holes in it, you put the thread through it, you sew it up, you glue it.
My brother is the president of college independent presses. He works at UVA.
Oh, wow.
And he talks about no, we don't have these talks all the time, but he knows sort of like the history of presses and printing and stuff.
Wait, who's this?
My brother.
You really?
And some of the stuff he tells me is like, oh my God, you just like, if somebody just let me in the door, you just want to, like, just some of the stuff he can do, like the last thing I ever published was like just some writings of mine, and I went to like Kinko's or something, and they gave me some price, and I was like, I can't afford it. And he said, what do you got? I gave it to him. He's like, man, I can do it this way, and like this beautiful thing that was like, it's like, oh my God. So like, if you really know what you're doing, like you said, it's not really that hard. People just don't know how to do it. Right. It's not that hard. It's just people don't know what they're doing. Oh man, Nathan, you opened up a can of worms.
No good. No good. So what bird did you bring us today?
Well, I brought you an ocean bird.
An ocean bird?
Wow.
We're
Seems
leaving
like you're breaking the rules.
We're getting out of the valley.
Broken the rules.
Leaving the valley.
We're leaving
Road
the
trip.
valley. We're flying all the way over to Virginia Beach.
Well, we got family there.
Yeah, we got family, and these birds are there, and they're called terns.
Terns?
Come on now.
I've never heard of this.
I've never heard of
What?
that.
Spell it.
I
never heard of it.
With a U or an E?
Oh, no, come on. You've got two ocean birds, seagulls
Seagulls, right?
and terns.
Terns?
I've never heard of it.
Do they look a lot like seagulls?
All right, well, let's get that clear.
Is it with an E or a U?
It's T-E-R-N.
T-E, okay.
Now, here's the thing. When you go to the beach, mostly what you see are called seagulls.
Right.
They have a hooked bill. They're bigger. They're clumsier. They're more oafy. Their legs, their wings are droopy, more like a buzzard's. They're bigger. the tern is more delicate. It's prettier. The seagull has a big bill. The tern has a nice pointy bill.
Wow.
And they fly over the water, and the only thing they eat is little fish. And they dive down and get the fish. They hover, dive, grab a fish, and fly away. But the two birds you see along the seashore are usually either a seagull, which are very common, and they're more, you know, what's the word? More
Awkward.
just, I don't know, it's kind of like the difference between a buffalo and a deer. A buffalo is a seagull and a deer is a tern.
Now, is it the same family or completely different?
They're in the same
Well,
family.
Lex is calling up one now to show everybody on the show, and from here it looks like a seagull. So it's,
Well, look at they're
so
both,
they do look. They would blend together.
The coloration is the same.
If you didn't know better, you
black
would just think
head
they were all seagulls.
And white and gray wings. But
They look like seagulls.
well, the head's a lot different. A seagull has that different kind of beak and a wide, longer beak. And
Does it have that same seagull noise? Does it make the same? Do you
no,
know?
these don't have any of those.
Wow, you've stumped both of us. Have
I
you ever
think-
heard, Next, have you ever heard of a tern?
Yeah,
You have? Oh, you grew up near
Well,
the beach,
yeah,
though, right?
grew up down there.
Yeah.
They usually travel in groups of 3. You've heard that term before.
Three.
What?
Ter-
Well, it's actually a biblical term.
What's that?
Three.
Holy Trinity?
No,
3 turns make a right.
no. You're getting closer. Turn, turn, turn.
Oh.
Oh.
To everything there is a season.
Season.
Turn, turn, turn.
Yeah, that's a joke.
Yeah, that was,
I was thinking.
yeah, I need a
I
rim
was,
shot in the left.
thinking, man, he's really getting deep now. That's true.
I'm sorry, I thought of that one last night.
Gosh,
I should have rejected it last night.
oh man,
Turn, turn, turn. Who did that?
Oh well, the
was that
David Crosby's band, the Birds.
The Birds. I
Oh.
think.
The
Oh,
plot thickens.
gosh.
Yes, exactly.
Oh man, we got a little
That's what I
conspiracy
mean.
theory
What I mean,
here.
man.
And who was the band? The Birds.
The Birds. And we're not talking about the bird.
and who is their manager?
So-
Seagull. Can you believe it?
Jonathan Livingston Seagull.
And there you go. So, let's see.
Why do they travel in threes? What's the third?
They don't. I just made
okay.
that
Oh,
up.
you think,
Gosh.
wow, that was a whole
Man.
joke.
That
was a whole
was-
crafted
man.
joke.
I was alone
All
last
right,
night.
people. There's actually probably no bird named the
Who's
terns.
That thing just kicked in.
He's going to have us out there hunting terns here. In a
Yeah.
minute.
We're going tern hunting.
Could have done the snipe, but I didn't. They nest in large groups, colonies, to protect them. They lay an egg right there on the rocks, not any nesting.
Oh, what weird.
You know, they find a isolated area, beach or a little island, away from any predators, and then they just form this rookery or colony, and they protect each other, and they can go fishing. Everybody will take care of each kindergarten type thing, and so
Takes a village.
yep, they have that, and they travel in groups, and they just travel.
So they
up and
don't
down.
make nests at all?
Not usually. They'll some of them like on rocks and things, but they don't really do much nest building really. You
Now,
think
is it-
their bills and things aren't built for that.
Is it the same coloring and like markings as a seagull? Or?
Pretty much white on the bottom, black mask, and gray on the top. So they do have very similar. Males and females of this look the same, and they have 1 or 2 eggs during the season when they all get together. And they do travel. The Arctic tern, now you're not going to believe this, but I'm telling you, the Arctic tern spends the Arctic in one season and the Antarctic in the other.
What?
No
They
way.
travel. It says they seldom see dark. The way they travel back and forth all the way across the.
Does that even make any sense?
They just, and then of course they're feeding in the ocean the whole way that they're traveling, but they're moving north and south probably with the fish as the temperature goes.
Interesting.
It's a good-
Now, I imagine they go down and back, but it'd be so cool if they went back and then back the other way. They circled the whole Earth. They probably just do half.
They do it in one ocean, but they do come down one side and go back the other side.
They do, so they go around the whole Earth?
Well, I think they go down one side of like between Africa and
Oh, okay.
North
okay.
America. They go down here and come
Okay.
back here. I'm sure they're following the tides.
How come I've never heard of
Excuse me,
this?
the way the ocean currents is what they're following probably to get the food. But they feed on these just little fish that are on the surface. They don't dive down deep very far. They depend on sight, and they grab that fish.
That is so weird because all other birds migrate to get to stay warm.
Yeah, these, you wonder what they're doing, except they're following the food source.
Right.
That's what makes the most sense. They're following the, if they stayed in one place all the time, they'd eat everything there. So
Right.
they keep moving.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So do they stay like basically along the landmass, or do they like stop at little islands and stuff?
They travel along the shore. I'm sure. Yeah. I mean, they can go pretty far out into the middle of the ocean,
Right.
but still make it back because they can fly. So,
Do they mix with seagulls?
well, they'll go to the same bar, but they won't really drink together or anything.
Right.
They
But if you're at the beach, you might see them.
you can see
mixed
different
together.
groups, and you can tell seagulls are bigger, and there's just something about seagulls you just think they're not pretty, but terns are pretty. I don't know
Graceful, more
why.
graceful.
More
birds.
graceful is a good word. They can turn on a dime. They dive straight down. Seagull's more of a plopper.
Seagulls also fish though too, right? They swoop.
Seagulls fish,
dive
but
for
they
fish.
are a lot more scavengers too. I mean, so to some extent the tern, but mostly the terns are going to eat a live fish that they caught. Seagulls like to get into your super
Terns
burger.
aren't going to come eat your
Fritos.
your Fritos. right?
Exactly, exactly. Seagulls love Fritos. Yeah. I don't know. Is there any other questions about terns? I didn't.
Hey Heather. Any
But-
questions in the chat about the tern?
That's just so weird that I've never heard. I had a question for the chat, and I forgot to ask it earlier. Do people still whistle?
Whistle?
Like, do people just still, like when I was growing up, my dad
while
would
they
just,
work.
or my dad would like just walk around the house whistling, like, just songs. Do people? I haven't heard anybody whistle for
Lex
amusement.
whistles.
You whistle?
I whistle every day.
I never hear people whistle anymore. I was thinking about that a couple days ago. Do people still just like wake up, like you're just doing the dishes or taking the trash out and whistle?
It's a little old school.
I have people tell me, "Really? You're gonna whistle now too?"
Is there certain song? Is there certain songs you whistle over and over, or what do you whistle?
Yeah, just whatever comes, whatever I'm. Yeah, it's random. It's really random. But yeah, it's usually some kind of little melody of some kind. But
Wow.
it's not the same a lot. I don't have like go-to ones.
Right.
He does the whistle solo on my YouTube track of "Bad Time to Be a Clown," one of my songs.
Cool.
Yeah.
I used to try to whistle all the time.
I wish if I could whistle, I would.
I asked the people at work, and they were like,
Yeah.
"We don't whistle, and I haven't heard anybody whistle for the longest time." I just grew up with like somebody whistling like all the time.
Right, it is true. I could see that it's waning.
Yeah.
In our,
I got caught in Spanish 1. I just remembered that. I was in the back of that room up there in the springtime, and she called me down, and we had been through the class and everybody was studying or doing their own thing and their own work, and I realized that she was calling on me, and she said, "What are you doing?" And I realized that I had been trying to whistle, and I couldn't. I was just practicing, but I had gotten lost, and I just was reading the book and trying to whistle, and she caught me. I was very embarrassed.
Now, Lex, did you remember who taught you how to whistle, or you just learned on your own, or?
I just figured it out.
Do you whistle?
I was young.
I used to. I remember when I was, I'd hear my dad do it all the time, so we would just start sort of going along with him. But now, I don't think I've whistled in forever.
Can you whistle right now?
I've got a weird whistle. It's like real high pitched.
Well, we would expect that.
Let's hear.
I've been drinking a lot, so I can't really get
Here,
it.
here, let's try a little experiment. You know that song's like, dun 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 dun. Comment. It smells like gasoline. All right, so let's all try to whistle that melody.
Okay.
1, 2, 3.
God, God.
You're carrying us. You can. Why did you stop? You were carrying us.
We sound like some concentration camp trying to entertain the other people. We'll whistle for you before we go to the gas chambers.
That's disgusting.
Lex, whistle for us. Let's hear what a good whistler sounds like.
You got your mic on?
Wait a minute. My
That's a
dad
tough
used to
one.
whistle like it was just breathing. It was just like a beautiful, like it didn't take any effort or anything.
Yeah,
like I'm all lip puckered up trying to,
You sounded pretty good though. You were running circles around Dad.
I don't have a whistle in me.
Yeah, I was.
I never have.
It's a lot of range to that melody, by the way. It's one of the harder whistles.
Can we hear a little bit?
But I can't do those high notes.
Ah, good.
Yeah. One fascinating thing I found is that your whistle range is very similar to your vocal range, at least for that I've found. That cutoff is right about where my actual cutoff is in notes I can sing, like falsetto or whatever.
That makes sense.
Whistle while you work.
And
Now, do you think the harmonica was inventions for people that couldn't
That
whistle?
couldn't whistle. I could believe that.
I would think the good whistler would be a better harmonica player too.
That rings true.
That's a theory that we could
A
test.
kazoo is like the invention for people that can't whistle.
I've always wondered a good, like say like Dylan, or I've heard you play harmonica. Do you always hit the same notes, or it's just that you get a vibe going, or is it always the same? That you're always at the same part on the harmonica, or do you just get like a good sound going?
It's like any other instrument. It's got a certain number of notes built into it, and you choose which ones you want to hit.
But like a guitar, I'm assuming when you play a song, you hit the same chords all the time. Is a harmonica like you know exactly where you're going on, or is it more just like I get a
see what you're
feeling
saying.
going?
I guess there's different ways to play it. You can get that, but yeah, you can't just get that feel going. But if you want to play a melody on it, which a lot of people do, like the
Right.
melody of the song or whatever,
Man.
just hit the notes individually. But you can't just get that wonk, 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 wonk. It's kind of a little.
Well, because I know like a couple of times in my life, somebody's given me a harmonica, or I picked one up. It's so fun, but then I feel like, after having fun for 2 weeks, I just put it aside and never play it anymore. But, it seems like it was it's not that hard. All you got to do is blow into it.
I think if you get another harmonica, I'll give you one tonight if you want one. But then try to play a melody on it. Like just pick a simple little tune like the one we just did,
Right.
and just try to play it on there. Dun, 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 dun.
Right.
Like try to. I'm 52 years old, and only in the last couple of months I've really been enjoying trying to play melodies on my guitar. And it's something I never really did, but to be playing, because I I did some work on this guitar. This is the one I won in Telluride, and I've had it since I won. That was 2009 or something like that. I never played it because it was just too hard to play and it would hurt my hand. But I've done some work on it, some DIY luthering, and been lowering the action. And each time I work on it, it just gets more and more fun to play.
Oh,
and
cool.
it's really, the sound coming out of it, I've never heard anything like it in my hands. So it's, you know, each guitar will inspire you to play in a different way. And so it's always exciting to get a new instrument into your life because you're like, oh, I've never played like this before. And it's sort of like a tennis racket or something like that. You go from like a wooden one to a graphite one. You're like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I'm better than I thought I was.
That's a good analogy.
And so it can be really a major revelation where you're just like, wow, I'm really excited by my game again, by this new tool. So, but I never really did it much, but but a lot of times when I've been playing lately, I'll just have a pick and I'll just like start trying to play the melody of the song. Like you would playing a lead or something.
Right.
And it's really fun. That's all I got.
That's great.
But it is interesting that I've played for so long without ever really trying to play melodies like that. It's similar to what you're asking about the harmonica. Just strum it. Just strum it.
That's so cool how just like I mean, even though they make these things, you know, they mass produce guitars, each one is like a little bit different. And every just like people, you know, they're just churn them out, but everyone's got their own special qualities and sounds and stuff.
I bet there's a lot of musicians and stuff that we know out there that didn't find their sound until they found their instrument. And all of a sudden they get a different style of guitar. I mean, there's different kinds, different styles. Like that's a nylon string, the classical. It's not even steel string, it's nylon strings. And they're spaced a little bit different apart, but you know, you could play guitar for 10 years if you never played a 12 string or a nylon string or a tenor guitar. Like all of a sudden you get that in your hands and you start playing in a way you've never played before, and you're like, that's your sound. And so it can be really, there's a lot of musicians that it's hard to get them out of because it also can become insatiable curiosity of like, what am I missing right now? So they're always in music stores, always waking up at 6 in the morning to get to the yard sales first, because you just never know what sound might be waiting for you there that's been sitting in someone's closet.
It's I've read so many like music biographies where like the guy, you know, his parents bought him like some Sears, you know, guitar, and they practice on it. And they just love that sound. That's what they know. Then they're like, then they, you know, they make an album, get some money. They're like, oh my God, then we got like a real guitar. You're like, what the hell was I doing? You know, like, you know, I was just like plumping away on this Sears guitar. Now I'm like, you know.
It can be a good way to learn, to start on a cheaper guitar, whatever, because you build up your calluses sooner and you're working really hard, but then you get a little stronger than you need to be, and then you get a nice instrument and you're like, oh man, it's almost like the practice swings that the baseball player takes with the big weights on the end of it or whatever. You just like make it hard, and then you get the real thing in your hand and you're just like, whoo.
But I guess it's that familiarity where that's what I mean, even if you're a good guitar player, that's what you're used to hearing. And if you step up, like you said, I mean, I can't tell, but like you probably hear such a difference. You're like, oh my gosh, am I all of a sudden playing better, or does this thing just sound better? You know. Wow.
You know who had an interesting sound with the guitar was that Jimmy Buffett sound with the what is it, steel rim guitars. You know what I'm talking about?
I do.
That Margaret, that sound. It's a Caribbean guitar sound.
Right. Well, when you say, I was thinking of his steel drums too as a big part of
Yeah,
his
but
sound.
the drums are a big part of it, but. Maybe that's the part I'm thinking of, but I keep thinking
it's not drums though. They're playing notes. It's those big steel drums that you hit with mallets.
Okay, maybe that's what I'm.
It's definitely a huge part of the Jimmy Buffett
It's not a
sound.
guitar at all, really.
Right, but it does. I mean, it is making notes.
Yeah, gotcha.
That ring out, and it is a huge sound.
Yeah, it's a totally different sound.
Now, if you, because a friend of mine, her ex-husband makes guitars here in town. Like, if you want a particular sound, can you describe that to a guitar maker and they can make it, or that's just?
It'd have to be within their wheelhouse, because definitely it's. But I'm sure they would love the challenge if you had a specific request or something. But it seems like most instrument makers have thing they make.
Right.
And people are like, oh, I love
Right.
that, and they gravitate towards it like that. It's not a huge range or whatever. But then again, they'd all love a challenge.
Right.
Could you
How many guitars do you have around here? You gonna sing a song about guitars?
I should. You know, the one thing I think is a little bit weird about my life story is, you see all these guitars, I didn't buy a single one of them.
Well, you told us that one time. Mm-hmm. So you're a master thief.
I'm a master thief.
Lex, go there and distract the salesman for a second. I'm going to take this guitar off the wall.
I did sort of steal that nylon string one off Jay Austin. If he's out there, sorry, Jay. It's right here. You can come get it.
Now, have you ever been like on tour or something? You're just at some dude's house and they play your guitar and you're like, oh my God, I love the way this sounds. I want this guitar.
Yeah, and I've felt that way many times. I was so fascinated about the work I did on this when they had that Marinos pick last week, which was pure magic, by the way. But I was like, I got so fascinated by it that I played everybody's guitar in there. I was like, can I play your guitar for a second? I just want to see for a second.
Huh.
And just
But that was interesting.
just because I was wondering just exactly how close I could get this. It's all, this is called action, how far the strings are from the fretboard. And if it's, the higher it is, the harder it is to press down.
Right.
And a lot of pawn shop guitars will have super high action. And so then Danny Dollinger was there, and I was trying to get his opinion, because I feel like I could bring these a lot closer, but I don't know. But so what I did was took this bone out from in here and just sanded it down so they get lower and lower. And I'm going to take it to a professional for the next step to see just how low I can really get it. But none of my guitars sound like that.
Wow.
And you can see why I've been plucking out melodies now, because the
got a
notes
full
just ring
sound.
out of it
Yeah.
so differently than any other guitar I've ever
Really,
owned.
that's a great sound.
It is. We are at 8:30. We did it again.
Gosh, it sounds like you should be singing like a song from Kill a Mockingbird or something like that.
I just can't even get over it. So since I stopped doing the news show, I've been really looking for a new project, because I need to be doing up to something. It's just, as an artist, I need to have something I'm working on all the time, or I start to go a little crazy. Last night I stumbled on what my next project is, and it's all sort of a culmination of several things: the work I've done on this guitar, the conversation we had recently, a desire to have new content on my all access part of my website, nathansland.com. And so I'm creating a new playlist in the all access section of nathansland.com of me just singing covers on my new guitar.
Ooh.
And I'm going to let you curate it's in part of what we talked about with your dream for that show. This is a good place to start.
Mm-hmm.
So you give me your list of songs you'd like to hear me cover.
Wow.
I'm going to record them here and put them on the playlist. And I created the playlist. I got to get you into that part of my website. Maybe I can help you figure that out so you can play this stuff on your phone. But I created the little player today. It's called Undercovers. And the beautiful thing is like, if I wanted to put out an album of covers, there's so much rigmarole. There's like copyrights. You have to, pay people to do it and figure all this. You almost need a team of lawyers to put out like on Spotify or to release a CD. But on my website, I can do it. There's nothing, no real reason, nothing to stop me there. So I can actually create a record, quote unquote, of me singing covers, put it on my website, and not have to worry about any of that stuff.
So what's my job to come up with
Give me
some
your
songs?
list of songs you'd like to hear me cover, and then I'll record them here and upload them to the website.
Word is the word.
Have you ever heard those Matthew Sweet, Susanna Hoff cover albums?
I don't think so.
Like one of the ladies from the Bangles and Matthew
wow.
Sweet. Oh, and they just do it's just like really nice covers, really fun albums. But like I thought that too. Like how much do they pay to get the rights to even use these songs?
Right.
I mean, you got to sell a buttload of albums to even cover the cost. Just to pay these people for their use of the songs.
I'm not sure how it works on Spotify and stuff like that, but I know it's a lot of rigmarole.
Right.
It might not even be that expensive. It's just a pain in the butt.
Right.
You got to figure out so much stuff. But we found a way around it. So I created the playlist today. It's on the main part of the All Access section. It says Undercovers, and it has one song in it so far. And I'm going to risk it with a YouTube copyright strike here and sing my first submission.
We've gone after the people picking up the recycling. Now we're breaking the rules.
Yeah, we are. That's right.
So is this a song we're going to recognize?
It's one of Dad's favorites.
Okay.
You maybe never heard it.
Okay. Two Live Crew.
Yeah. How'd you know? Oh my God. I watch you reading a book. Get to thinking our love's a polished stone. Give me a long, drawn look. Know pretty soon you're gonna leave our home, and of course I mind. Especially when I'm thinking from the heart. Life don't clickety-clack down a straight line track. It comes together and it comes apart. You say I hope I'm not the kind to make you feel obliged to go ticking through your time with that pained look in your eyes. Give me the furniture, we'll divide the photographs. Go out to dinner one more time, have ourselves a bottle of wine and a couple of laughs.
God, this
When
is
first you
sad.
left, I was so sad I couldn't sleep. I know love's a gift, thought yours was mine, something that I could keep, and I realized time is not the only compromise. A bird in the hand can be an all-night stand between a burning fire and a pocket of skies. I hope I'm not the kind to make you feel obliged to go ticking through your time with the pain look in your eyes. I covered the furniture, framed the photographs. Went out to dinner one more time, had myself a bottle of wine and a couple of laughs. Just the other day, I got your letter in the mail. I'm happy for you. It's been a long time. You wanted a cabin in a backwoods trail, and I think that's great. Me, I seem to find myself in school. It's okay, I just want to say I'm so glad we didn't do it cruel, but ain't life a brook. Just when I'm feeling like a polished stone, I give me a long, drawn look. Sort of a drag to find yourself alone. Sometimes I mind, especially when I'm waiting on your heart. But life don't clickety-clack down a straight line track. It comes together and it comes apart. Oh, I know you're not the kind to make me feel obliged to go ticking through my time with the pain look in my eyes. I sold the furniture, put away the photographs. Went out to dinner one more time, skipped a bottle of wine, had a couple of laughs. Isn't it fine?
Wow, mama.
Damn, that's the saddest song I've
It's
ever
a
heard.
tearjerker. I played it for Guthrie the other night and just.
Who was
halfway-
that by?
Farron is who wrote it,
Farron wrote it.
Gosh.
and
Wow, that's a
but the version he first heard was Bill Morrissey and Greg Brown.
that's a stomach
Yeah.
punch right there.
It really
It's got
is.
some beautiful lyrics in it.
Oh man, thank you so much for tuning in. We love you, and we'll see you next time.
Keep on whistling.
Very nice.
God, if I hadn't been planning on singing that song, we would have done the Bad Time to Be a Clown and featured our producer
Oh,
over there on the
well.
whistle.
Oh,
So
wow.
we'll have to do that.
Definitely. Next week we'll
Good
talk about
grief.
clowns.
There you go, clowns.
What's the biggest clown thing you ever did in your life?
Why are they so terrifying?
Wow.
They're like, send in the clowns. That's a song.